Welcome to the pilot or first episode of Cross-Format Fandom, the, I guess, premiere. I'd like to say premiere. It sounds a little fancy for this small town farm boy. I am your host, JL. With me is my co-host, T-Moro. Say hello, T-Moro.
Good day, good day.
So if you're just joining us, which is likely considering it's our first episode, this is I guess you can use the word podcast. I actually don't own any Apple products. So before you start sending the emails, just be aware that I'm an old-fashioned kind of guy in a way. But we, can refer to it as a podcast. If you're happy with that, that's fine. This is a show dedicated to the different nuances of pop culture and culture in general, which can include everything from pinball to Magic the Gathering to wrestling. There's a few topics that we want to get to over time, and some guest hosts that, assuming they respond to the messages I sent, may join us.
Maybe.
May join us for one. I'm not entirely sure. We'll see. Having some blackmail material on them, that doesn't hurt either.
Exactly.
Just a quick little introduction to what we're sort of hoping to accomplish with the show. The purpose of the show isn't, frankly, to garner as many likes and subscribes as I possibly can. I'm not doing this to make money. If someone wants
it would
to
be
pay,
nice.
yeah, someone wants to pay me for it, I probably wouldn't refuse, but I don't think we're even remotely near that juncture. That being said, I really want this to be a show, a program where, you've done work for the week or whatever. You got a quiet Sunday afternoon or Monday or whenever we get this uploaded. And similar to what I myself do when I go home some days, I just put on a YouTube vlog or a podcast and I just listen to it. Sometimes I'm pretty engaged in what they're talking about. I follow a few channels on Collider, for example, and Interdimensional Cross Rip from the Ghostbusters fandom. But that being said, I like a show where people aren't telling you what your opinion is, and I'm certainly not trying to say fandom is bad or good or better or worse than other things. It's just a discussion point. The more guests we have on here, the more interesting we're hoping that discussion becomes, and just trying to find our way through this ever-growing sea of pop culture, I guess.
And grows.
It does.
Every second.
T-Moro and myself are not older, but we're not young. What is it, Wedding Crashers?
Yeah.
We're not that young. I think I'm celebrating the big 4-0 in about 3-4 weeks here, just to give you an example of where I'm sitting.
I'll give me a couple more years and I'll be right there.
Yeah. But, honestly, Troy looks a little bit better than me.
Some would say no.
Some wouldn't say anything.
Some might just laugh.
Just laugh. This is where you laugh, everyone. That's right. Put the Kenny G on. So we're just sort of trying to dip our toes in this. So please bear with us a little bit as we sort of find our way. I know it seems pretty easy for a lot of people to just sort of go, oh, hey, I'm going to put a YouTube channel on, and they can just take to it like a duck to water. But in my case, this is probably going to be a little bit of a learning experience. I would like to thank James and his crew here at the Fortress of Solitude, as we call it, who are fantastic hosts as they put us up in this attic that certainly does not look like it's from The Hills Have Eyes.
But close.
Close.
But it's wonderful.
It is. It's like Sonic broadcasting from the US Hubcap district, I think it was, and they actually had a trailer at one point. So, but it's a fantastic little studio. I'm looking forward to having many more nights and debates here, and potentially visiting Carl's Jr. or two, maybe down the way.
Yes.
So just, again, a little bit more info before we plow into sort of the main, I guess, dish of what the topic of today is. The idea of just having a podcast or an audio show has been something that's been on my mind for years and years. I've been actually on a couple other people's YouTube channels as a guest host. I had a background in fight coordination for small film and television. So I've actually done a few YouTube projects with some pretty well-known YouTubers like Corey Vidal, name drop, because I don't know how often I'm going to get to do this. So, I sort of looked at what they were doing and some of the things that were great. And to be honest, the show isn't really anything different than having a discussion at the theater or at a comic book shop with people that have the same interests. It's just some other people may find your discussion points interesting. And to be honest, we're looking to sort of meet people who share the same ideas. And if you don't share the same ideas, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, which, is a good tease for the upcoming topic that we're gonna get into. I'm gonna let T-Moro here take a couple minutes just to give a little bit of insights. I'd like to thank you first, Troy, for joining me on this epic adventure.
I'm up for whatever. So this is kind of cool.
It's fantastic. It's like Uncharted, except, no Eddie Raja or cliffs or anything that might potentially kill us. Well, I don't know. I don't know.
You never know in this.
I don't know in this particular district. Anyway, Troy, give a little bit of info about yourself, sir.
Well, pretty close to the same age, about 38. I definitely love all different types of fandom. I'm in a few. Movies, one probably my top. Video games, comics, D&D, I'm a big fan. I've thought about YouTubing or podcasts, but I've never really thought, would anybody care what I had to think about it? But then Jay said, hey, think about this. And I was like, you know what? I think I might want to do that.
To be fair, we still don't know if any of you will care.
Yeah.
We're hoping, but
maybe
if you don't, we'll make a couple episodes and it'll be that thing we did that summer. And if people like it more, then we'll do more of them, because we do sort of pay for this out of our pocket. We don't have Google or anything like that paying for it that I know of. I don't think
they are.
Yeah,
Well,
no.
if they are, well, they're not showing it.
That's true. Yeah. Start a Patreon. Start a Kickstarter. We'll get into that too, folks. Is when I was younger, the idea of funding a movie was something you
way
did,
out there.
something you did with friends, but topics to talk about for another time. But again, Troy, I'd like to thank you for joining me today.
Oh, no problem.
Again, apologies, folks, if we're clearing our throats into the mic and such. We're still sort of learning our way around this particular setup, as it were. So today, the main topic we're going to get into is what we're referring to as episode 1, the Fandom Menace. Now, before you get the keyboards up and running here, I want to just clarify a little bit. I don't view fandom as a menace. It's a fun little play on words for that Star Wars prequel we were all waiting for, or I was waiting for when I was about 19. If I really wanted to anger you all, I would say things like, I think episode 1 is my favorite Star Wars film.
Wait, it's not?
No, it is.
Oh,
it is.
okay.
Actually, it is. It is my favorite Star Wars film. And
is it because there's lots of Jedi instead of just one?
There's lots of aspects for that, and I'm sure any subscribers we have are now gone.
Dang.
But for
Should've
those
brought that up in episode 2.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if episode 2 is any better. Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, is not my favorite Star Wars film, just so we're all aware. But we're going to get into a little bit of discussion point on fandom and the relationship fans have with the industry in general, as well as, the idea that there's, it's referred to a lot lately as toxic fandom. And what's toxic fandom? What's a toxic fan and what's a fan who's just
passionate?
Yeah, exactly. And everyone, I suppose it's like a villain.
Yeah.
Do villains really think they're a villain?
No, they think they're the hero.
Exactly.
So what end are you on? When do you become the villain or the hero?
That's true. There it is. There's the tagline. This is, oddly enough, I had this idea for a topic a while ago, but a certain television show that's aired recently and it's in its last season has been filling my my social media feed, which I don't do a lot of, quite regularly, with people who are not happy about certain things, and of course other people who are defending those particular views of the show and creators. So, I mean, what is a toxic fan? Troy, what are your thoughts there?
Well, it boils down to like, what is a toxic fan? Like how far do you go before you become that toxic? So you can argue a point, but does that make you a toxic fan? If you go past that and you start like petitions and stuff like that, are you a toxic fan, or are you just still that passionate? When is it that we call them toxic fans, but where's the line to cross before you become that so-called toxic fan? So we can discuss and see, like, because some people turn around, like I said, villains think they're the heroes, right? So if the person's talking defending what they think is the better part of what they think is, and another person's like, no, this sucked or this was good, who's the villain? When is it toxic?
Yeah.
How do we define that, really?
Yeah, and I mean, it's a pretty broad question. Like what a toxic fan to someone is just a passionate fan to another, right? I mean, we live in a world of various ups and downs right now, folks, where there are a variety of definitions for certain things. Pretty much anything you can discuss, whether it be pop culture, politics, sports teams now is a completely different ball game, so to speak, than when I was a little younger. Words like toxic fandom, weren't around. We had words like toxic crusaders.
Yeah, great. I love toxic crusaders.
Toxic avengers, a little trauma throw out. But we didn't have toxic fandom because fandom was a little different, when I was a little younger. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But just in the status of what, we process in terms of entertainment, especially with, again, the interconnectivity between, media as well as celebrities or performers, creators, and fans in general. That plays a huge factor in it, right? I have some strong feelings on The Last Jedi and things I didn't particularly enjoy, but the things I did enjoy, I enjoyed, and I try and balance that. To be honest, I have things I like and dislike about every single Star Wars film. And to be honest, I think if you're a real fan of something, you generally have that opinion.
Yeah.
Indiana Jones. Everyone loves Indiana Jones. Yeah, Temple of Doom and Crystal Skull, people sort of Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. It's a Star Wars film, and a lot of people consider it, after seeing some of the later films we've gotten, a lot of people I've spoken to consider it, quite frankly, a better trilogy than the one that they're doing now. But that's your own opinion and your own view, and you're entitled to have it, absolutely. I would say that in my, and again, this is just my observation, a toxic fan isn't an individual who's is passionate about their views, and they hear your views and they go, okay, you know what, I understand you feel that way, and it's great that you liked it, because to be honest, no one makes a project hoping it sucks. Okay?
I hope not.
I hope not. This isn't it, is it?
Well, you never know.
We never know.
I'm hoping they're not going to fail.
Please don't leave.
Continue to listen.
But the other side of that is that, Troy and I can have a debate about a film or movie we see or a show we watch, which we do quite often because we both work nights as a day job. There's a play on words. So we don't really see people that often. So if you ever, are looking for us at an event of some type, just look for two really pale guys. But
as tired as F.
Yeah, very much. And thank you for not dropping the F-bomb. I'm hoping we get various age demographics on this, but
it'll slip up, but I will attempt to not.
We'll deal with it when it happens. But a fan who's passionate is a fan who's passionate about what they like. They enjoy it. They'll listen to people who maybe didn't share the same view, and sometimes they may change their views on something. But my personal thing or view of toxic fandom is a toxic fan is someone that they have their opinion, and if you don't have their opinion, your opinion sucks.
Or it don't matter, or they don't even listen to you after that because they're not, like, I know a few guys like that, and it's like, we can have a discussion. We're allowed discussions. We're allowed our own opinions. But when you start losing it on a guy who doesn't share your opinion about something, now you're becoming, I can agree, very toxic about it. You should be open to anybody's opinion and should be able to disagree or not. Simple as that. Yeah,
it'd be, at the end of the day, that'd be a nice end all be all to it, and that would be the end of it, right? It's like sports teams. I like the Bruins. I like the Oilers. Okay, well, that's it. And it's fun to have rivalries. There's when I was a little young, it doesn't happen anymore. But which is better, Star Wars or Star Trek, right? That was the debate. And if you were a Trekkie or a Trekker or whatever demographic you'd like to quantify yourself as, it was, well, who's better, Kirk or Picard, right? And that used to be,
that's a big one.
It's a big one, and now you've got like, well, which Kirk is better,
the new one or the old one?
Is it Pine in his prime or is it Shatner in his prime, right? Like, I think even Shatner has said Chris, but the expanding nature of pop culture and the fandom, it's at a place that everyone says, oh, you could go back and tell yourself, as a kid, you're gonna have this and this. I mean, we all thought it was gonna be Back to the Future Part 2, and we're going to have, flying DeLoreans. We couldn't get DeLoreans to ride on the road well. We're going to put them in the sky. Fashion, it's odd. You look at movies where we thought we'd be, and yet you look at films and television that were filmed in the 80s and 90s, and part of you is like, oh man, I remember that. And a good portion of you is like, oh, that's fantastic, I remember those. And the other part of you is like, what were we thinking? It's same thing you look at when you look at pictures maybe of your parents or other
yourself.
Yeah, yourself. You're like, why did they dress me like this? Why did they do this? Which is odd because we live in a culture now where vintage is the thing. 1920s, 1930s. I listen to a lot of 1920s and 30s big band music, which Troy has heard on my work computer several times.
I'm all right with that.
Kind of like Captain America, just caught in the wrong area. It's same with cars. Despite the fact that I was born in the late 70s, I seem to have this disproportionate like to earlier, times and eras. And maybe that's because there's just something appealing about it as an aesthetic, being a medieval reenactor.
Simpler time.
Yeah. Well, the medieval reenactment thing, that's a little different because the medieval times are not an enjoyable period. But I'm not one of those recreationists where I'm like, here, let me take you to a time where everything was horrid. It was like,
mayhem.
yeah, the idea of Camelot is sort of what I like, is the idea that things were better. And, again, Thrones, it's one of those shows that takes a real life situation and puts it into a medieval or fantasy drama. And it works fairly well there. But with toxic fandom, if you will, fan groups just were not really around. As I mentioned, when I was younger, you had, if you like Star Wars, you might have a Star Wars t-shirt or the Kenner toys, and that was kind of the end of it. That was it.
Well, you didn't have a lot of what we like now. We have like phones that are computers, and they put you out there now. Back then, you didn't have those kinds of things, and if you did, they were not that great. But you had to come together with other people before you could just send it out to a guy across the world. But like, hey man, you're a fan, like I'm a fan, and now everybody knows you're a fan. Then it was just, hey, the guy on the street, he had a Star Wars shirt. Maybe we'll talk with him and see how he enjoys it. Or he has a poster of the Enterprise, cool. Or he has a Ninja Turtle. I love Ninja Turtles.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go sit next to that guy and we'll talk, and I'll bring my action figures over.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's now it's just there's so much you can get to at any time, and there's this. It's like, you ever watched the movie Hollow Man?
Yeah.
Right.
Josh Brolin,
right.
Kevin Bacon.
So you can't, if you don't look at yourself when you're doing bad things, you just do bad things because you don't have to look yourself in the.
Oh
in the
yeah,
mirror,
you don't. It's amazing what you can do when you don't have to look at yourself in the mirror every day
and tell yourself. Right, so it's like I'm behind a screen. I can say and do whatever I want. They don't know me, but that doesn't help. Like it's more of a hindrance, because people will do and say the most mean and ridiculous things because they don't have to look at themselves and say that was me. I'm doing those things because they don't have to see it. They just have to put it out there, and that's it.
Yeah, that's a way to look at it. I mean, the other aspect of that is you've got, I want to talk a little bit about. As I mentioned, we didn't have fan culture groups when I was a kid that I remember. Now you've got various Star Trek fan groups and Star Wars groups. I'm a member of a couple of those. You've got Ghostbuster fan groups. You've got Wizarding World, Doctor Who. You've got so many fandoms that have official clubs and you can join, and they have costume regulations and membership requirements, and they do a lot of charity work. My better half is Snow White on her days off, which can make living with a Ghostbuster and a Jedi a little interesting some days. But, there's that interaction. You come together out of this love of fandom, and yet you can have these just massive chasms in terms of points of view, which isn't unexpected. It's just, like, I'm sure, like, my mom probably goes, why are you arguing about Star Wars? Who cares? Like, that goes to the next sort of offshoot of that is, and please don't take offense when I use this terminology, folks, but it's referred to quite often as your armchair warriors, or your game chair warriors. The guys who just make videos all day down in their basement or their attic. They got a better setup than us. Don't get me wrong here, but they've got a very opinionated view on things, and that's fine. And they're looking for subscribers. And to be honest, sometimes it happens because you create drama. Do you stop following the person you're mad at? You probably should. But you tend to follow them more just so you can get more irritated at what they're saying. Not to tie it in too politically, but, south of our particular dominion, there's a country with I'll use the word elected leader, that a lot of people are not happy with, and yet he's on the news every day and doing things and saying things that are about as intelligent as a a 3-year-old child in some instances, but yet they're still there and people are still watching them and listening to them. So they get, it's like Eminem, I'll be whatever you want me to be. If, you don't want to let me just create and enjoy my work and you're going to make me out to be this thing, then that's the thing I'm going to be. And you're just going to keep promoting me for it. Right.
All right.
In that state of things as well is, you have these individuals that just have that opinion and keep forwarding and pushing it on, how are we different, Troy? Like, we're sitting here telling our views on things in our discussions. What's the difference? Is it, like, are we, is the intention of the people that sort of put out videos every day and, they're just working on rumors that they've heard and they say, oh, well, the 2016 Ghostbusters was horrible because of this and this and this, is that their opinion or is that fact?
Clickbait? We're talking about it and here we are giving our opinions. People can take it as they like. I'm not looking for people to agree or disagree. I'm just here to talk about things that I like and things that, just discussions in general. If people are going to listen, fantastic. That's awesome.
You're going to hear this probably a lot from me, folks. I grew up in a small farming community. If I could go back and tell myself as a young child, hey, you're going to meet Alex Rogan or Captain Kirk or the various... Clark Kent, yes, a few of them. Met a few Supermen. Huge honor. But I would probably look at you like you're crazy. I mean, I would anyway, because there's this 40-year-old guy who sort of looks like my dad looking at me and telling me this. But, that just wasn't something we thought of. I suppose that's just part of growing, right? I'm at the age now, we can probably say, I remember when this was this much. And then you stop yourself and go, oh, God,
Man,
this is how it starts.
Yeah.
And you sort of maybe noticing a little bit more salt in the hair than pepper. And Troy and I used to hit the trampoline park pretty religiously. We used to go for about an hour, and that was a good cardio workout and dropped a lot of weight. It was fantastic. And then one day we said, let's do 2 hours. And that's when we realized, no, we're not there.
We are not 2-hour guys.
We are not 2-hour guys anymore.
We are 1 hour.
1 hour.
Max.
Yeah. That, of course, as your body gets seasoned, as it gets older, so does I'd like to think your intellect as well. What you like, I notice I come home from work, I tend to watch the news, which is something I never did. So does that change your perspective as you get older in your fandom? I love Star Wars. When the prequels were out, I collected every comic book, every novel. I was like a Jedi holocron. I knew everything that happened in that galaxy. I didn't know what was going on in my own world, but I knew, hey, I know exactly what's going on at 6 years before Yavin or 2 years before the Phantom Menace, et cetera, et cetera. And now, even though there's plenty of material out there that I could absorb, I don't really buy a lot of Star Wars books and novels, partly because, Disney sort of wiped away the existing expanded universe that was there and turned it into legends and established their own canon. And some of that stuff I'm very happy with and some of it I'm not. But I don't necessarily want to dedicate all that time to learning about something that, quite frankly, could be washed away again in 10 years. We waited, how long we had to read novels to find out what Luke and Han's adventures were after Return of the Jedi, and well, there's still comics and novels that can be released about those adventures. We know ultimately what occurs to those characters, whether you like it or not. Mm-hmm. And that segues into the next sort of aspect of, again, interacting with these guests and things like that. We had so many individuals interact with fans in a way that we just didn't. Like people can tweet George Takei and he'll respond. Like,
oh yeah, I tweeted Samuel Jackson. Just, whatever. He said something funny. I tweeted back and he responded.
That's a moment.
And then he followed me on Twitter. I was like, holy jeez, I have Samuel Jackson on following me on Twitter. That's crazy.
You got Mace Windu following you. Yeah, then that's who knows, maybe he'll see this.
Yeah.
Sam, if you're in Edmonton and you want to pop by for just a casual hangout, I'd like to talk lightsabers and dinosaurs, but no snakes. I don't like snakes. But just this interactivity that creators and fans have with people who are involved in a show that just was, like you saw celebrities on TV, fan conventions and expositions, which we go to quite often. And we've had the privilege of meeting a lot of people. I just met some of the Goonies the other week, which
that was awesome.
Oh my, wow, having Corey Feldman say, never say die, man, to you. That's, the farm kid in me who's a Goonie at heart.
Yeah. I will never die.
Yeah, like, I hung out, got to talk with Data and Mikey and Mouth and picture with them. We're all smiling. It's these are moments, and while there's commercialism aspect there, there's certainly that interactivity. So when fans sort of tweet their dislike about something, like, say recently watched Game of Thrones episode or two, that I think it's okay to, if Ryan Johnson were to come in and say, hey, what do you think of The Last Jedi? I would be civil.
Oh,
say,
well, sure.
This is what I think.
Yeah.
This is what I like. This is what I didn't. But you know what? At the end of the day, folks, we all say, "Oh, I'm a Star Wars fan," or "I'm a Ghostbusters fan," and a lot of people who work on these projects say that. But you also have to understand there's still a commercialism aspect there that still has to be met, because if the project doesn't make money, they don't do other ones. And we can all make our backyard adventures with action figures when we were kids, and that's great. But frankly speaking, Ryan Johnson put himself in the place where he got to make his Star Wars action figure adventure with the actors. We're not there. We don't have those means at this juncture. But there's lots of fan films and fan productions that start Kickstarters and Patreons, which is a good topic for maybe another day, is, fan films that do things that a lot of people consider better than some of the existing. So, like, stuff. Star Trek's a big one. Like, there was a show called Star Trek Continues with Vic Mignogna, who is a fantastic guy. From what I've met, I know there's some controversy around him currently, but the dedication he had to remaking the sets, the costumes, like it honestly felt like the original series. You have a fan production called Axanar, which is about the original series era, a little bit before Kirk, and it sort of bridges the J.J. Abrams aesthetic, because the USS Kelvin in his film looks a little different than most ships at that time, and the timeline hasn't skewed yet until its destruction. But he got in, the guy who runs Axanar got into a bit of a hiccup with CBS, because he was using Star Trek alumni actors, and the production value was really high. Like, it's a sharp looking. It really is. Like, you give it a watch on YouTube sometime, guys. It's Axanar. Like, there's literally just a trailer. The trailer alone is like, wow. And of course, CBS got a little antsy about that, because they're trying to put Discovery together, and talk about toxic fandom. There's a schism, right? Like, there's people that love that show and people that I heard someone refer to it as the STD of Star Trek.
The STD.
And while I certainly don't share that mentality, I will say I'm not a particular fan of the show or the changes in aesthetic it's done. I'd prefer just to leave the Prime timeline alone. That's why you started a Kelvin timeline, but another rant for another day. But the ability to interact with fans and projects is just at a level that is unbelievable.
Well, like I said, there's so many, we can get to so many things now. So many type of productions. Well, like you said, you got YouTube. People just can put stuff together so fast, and it looks so good. And you're like, man, like, why can't big productions be doing these kinds of things?
And there's that thought of, like, why don't some of these production studios hire these people? And in some cases, that's true. The individuals who did the Force Awakens there, they actually hired R2D2 Builder Club people who made droids for hobby. I think JJ and Kathleen were walking through a convention or something along those lines. I don't know the exact details. And they sort of walked into the droids room, and they were like, these people make these things and they run better than
what we do.
Why would we not hire them?
Yeah.
And it makes perfect sense.
Smart move.
There's obviously union aspects and things, and there's just some things, I speak from experience here, folks, where you sort of have to be in the union to do this, but in order to get in the union, you have to do so many projects. It's a vicious circle, but it comes back to, honestly, who you know. There's a reason that saying is there. It's who you know, not what you know, because I've seen projects done by friends of mine that are unbelievably fantastic, and yet they're still having to run Patreons to do work and support families. And then I've seen professional productions done with things that are just like, you don't want to be demeaning to anyone who creates a project, because it's never easy. But the other part of me is like, what am I watching? Like, why did this person get a job? And yet there's stuff on the internet, just guys goofing around, and there it is.
Well, there's been a few times where, a fan has put out like a trailer for something that I enjoy, and I'm like, oh my god, they put a trailer out for Thundercats, live action Thundercats, and I'm watching, I'm like, oh, this is a bunch of other movies put together, but actually looks quite awesome. I was like, damn, why can't they do that? So like there's some really awesome people out there who've tricked me. Just saying, they tricked me, and I was like, oh, I was excited. Oh,
Clickbait. Yeah, I mean, I can't tell how many times I going through my YouTube, I see new episode 9 trailer, and it's like, yeah, it's not the new episode 9 trailer, folks. You've got the people, and then you know the unfortunate part is that I talked about fandom earlier and working in various aspects of film and media, but because of the hobbies I have, there are certain Facebook groups I'm a part of and forums and threads. That's how most fandoms operate, and there's people that sort of post stuff on there, and you can tell they're new. I don't say the word noob, but everyone starts out at a level. You're trying to sift through what's right, what's wrong, like I'm not even going to get into how many hours it takes to research what a proton pack is made out of and what the parts are called, because it's a lot of investment time, I'll say that. But they post stuff up. Oh, look, new Star Wars, and everyone just sort of, some people are pretty understanding and say, actually, mate, that's not it, oh, they posted a picture of this lightsaber hilt. This is the one. It's like, no, that's Photoshop, But then you've got the seasoned sort of disillusioned fans, maybe, and this maybe is where it leads into toxic fandom. Is you've got these guys that have been with, it's when people say I like Star Wars to certain age demographics, they're like, you don't know Star Wars, you weren't there, you don't know what it is. But the same sort of thing is you get these fans who were with, it's no different than a sports team. Fan. He's just been he was an Oilers fan from the early 70s, and now people come up and talk to him about his hobby, and he just sort of shakes his head. He just you don't. It's like Vietnam. You weren't there. You don't get it.
I've been a fan of the Buccaneers for a really long time. They've won like one Super Bowl. And since then, they have done literally. I think they made the playoffs once since they actually did that. But I'm still a fan. But when I tell people who I'm a fan of, they just give me a look like,
just blink at you,
just like,
your opinion sucks.
You're a Bucks fan, right? Same deal, right? Like, oh, like you talk to people like, yeah, I like whatever. You can say like, well, I like Pokemon, right? And you're like. Some people just give you a look like,
yeah, you know what? I was.
How old are you again?
Yeah, yeah. There's that. I mean, I was at that age where pop culture was something at a certain age you just Abraham Lincoln. I when I was a child, I played as a child. When I was a man, I put aside childish things, and that whether you like it or not is not the case anymore. I just kept collecting toys, much to my parents.
Oh, I love
like
collecting things.
At the age of 17, I got the Millennium Falcon Power of the Force playset, which had been re-released for the special editions, and I had wanted it since I was a kid. Every Christmas and birthday, I would ask for it as a kid. Every Christmas and birthday, and I never got it. Mostly because, again, small farm town, and even in Edmonton, it's not like it is now where you just go on eBay or go to a convention and you can find it. But, I remember my parents just rolling their eyes. I'm going to be 17 years old. I should be driving. Hey, what do you want for your birthday? I want the Millennium Falcon. My dad just had this look like, I bought you motorcycles. We had a paddle boat. Like, why? Like, can you just
Millennium Falcon?
Like I swear, if it was like the 1700s, he would have taken me out hunting. It's like Samuel Tarley. Just the kid is not getting it. But the amount of time and what I collected changed over years. But it was just, Power Rangers. Green Ranger, White Ranger. My brother and I loved that show just for that. It's not the deepest plot you're going to see, but there was a phase where my brother and I were into that. And I realize now as an older guy that it wasn't so much about the toys or the show. It was the fact that it was something you had in common with your friends. It's what Thrones and Star Trek Discovery and Doctor Who and all the binge watching shows that are on now. It was a template for that stuff. It was just something you shared in together because it was something new. Star Trek, you only had 3 seasons of the original show, and then you had the Next Gen, which did 8 seasons and was critically acclaimed. It's one of the few spin-offs that did as well, if not better, than the original. Which you think about is not an easy task, Team Knight Rider did not
so good.
Surpass Knight Rider. But you get this interactivity with creators and fans now that just was not there, and it shapes it shapes things. Fans, shape the decisions of Hollywood. And things like the Sonic the Hedgehog trailer they released, where people were like, Sonic looks horrible. Outrage. And the director came on, he's like, okay, we're going to change it.
Which is kind of cool.
And you're like,
that's something that's ever really done.
No,
which is kind of cool that he can do that. He is CGI, so any other part of the movie you don't really need to change. You just need to change that one part.
I mean, realistically, what has he got to lose? Mario Brothers, Tomb Raider, these have all been video games, Assassin's Creed. None of them, even if you like them, whether you like them as cult classics or whether you just have fond memories of them, none of them have really performed super well because it's a video game, and hence my I have separation anxiety about Uncharted going from a platform to a movie, but you get that like, what has the director got to lose?
Yeah.
If I say I'll change this, people are already interested because he's listening. But then you get the extreme of, okay, well, we're going to petition you to remake Game of Thrones and remake Episode 8, The Last Jedi. Folks,
it's not.
I tell you this not just as a pop culture host, but just a general fan. That doesn't happen. When I was a kid, Batman Returns came out. If you didn't like it, tough. That's it.
Yeah.
The studio would decide to do a third one or not. If you didn't like Ghostbusters 2, that's on you. If you didn't like the fact that Season of Dallas was all a dream,
which, let's just be honest, everybody hated. But
I remember that was my mom's toxic fandom summer.
Yeah. I think that was everyone's toxic fandom summer.
I can still hear her cursing. I remember,
just a dream? Are you kidding me?
Oh yeah,
like my mom did the same thing, but I think there was a lot more F-bombs.
There were a lot more F-bombs, and my mom did not curse very often around us, but that was an F-bomb. I later started to understand what that meant when I watched the Masters of the Universe film. Oh. But as an adult, I can appreciate what it took to make that. As a child, you just didn't get it.
Not to say as a child I didn't like it. As I grew up and saw it more, I still will watch it once in a while just because for the sake of watching it.
It grew on me.
For what it was as a kid, I was like, oh my God, it's He-Man. Regardless, it's He-Man. Yay. It's a live action He-Man. Wasn't... I got older and I'm like, wow, this is not good.
I wish I was you.
But I could see the entertainment value in it, and I was okay with it. Would I like a better one? Yes. Oh my God, would I love to see a Masters of the Universe?
They just cast I can't remember his name, but he was on, I think it was Jimmy Fallon, and they've cast He-Man. It looks like he could carry it. I know. One of our guest hosts that's going to be coming on the show at some point, Zach, he had mentioned, him and I had talked about, what we would cast. I remember Wizard Magazine used to do casting calls, who they cast and what, fun little point. They cast Patrick Stewart as Professor X when I was in junior high, and, that came to happen, so who knows. But we wanted, we always thought Chris Hemsworth would make a great He-Man, obviously, and, Liam Hemsworth we thought would make Prince Adam. That way they look the same but different. Doesn't look like that's the route they're going, but that's fine. I don't think Chris would really want to do another Thor-like character anyway, probably because he's enjoying not having to have a six-pack for a little while.
Let's just hope they don't do the bowl cut. I want some actual hair, not this weird half bowl of hair for Adam.
Yeah, the Prince Valiant look.
He looked weird, but I still love you, man.
Yeah, I think we're going to cut her a little short today, just because there's lots of more stuff we can talk about, but I don't want to run too long on things. We are looking forward to having some future guest hosts on here, and we'll get into that a little bit more as well. I think with some of the topics we're going to be getting to, there's a good potential for some really good discussion points, as well as some fandoms that maybe people don't really know about, some pinball clubs in town, Magic the Gathering, wrestling, Pokemon, like we're not exclusive to just movies and comics.
Yeah. Video games, D&D. Oh, I love me D&D.
Right. And that can go into, how's that affecting Hollywood as well?
Well, that's actually kind of, that would be a great topic to talk about for another one, because there's a lot to talk about, and a lot of people who actually, really famous people that you didn't think would play D&D, that play a lot, which is quite surprising. And, just before we end here, you were talking about how you and your brother got together and played like Power Rangers.
Yeah, it's one of the few things we played together, because he could be the White Ranger, I could be the Green one.
So you guys came together, and for a while there, I played a lot of video games, watched a lot of movies, but you play video games with your buddies online, so you're not really seeing them. And then I never really played D&D as a lot as a kid, but about 3 years ago, a couple friends were playing. They said, "Did you want to try it out?" And I was like, "Sure." And it's really awesome. It's actually quite the game, but your imagination is just tapped to the max when you play, but you get to hang out with people. That we kind of lost that connection with people when we always play online and we don't like see people.
Yeah, I know a lot.
Talk to them, but I find just getting together, even if it's just like a games night or something. But again, like I said, this could be a topic for another time. But
well, that's a fun note too. I have a friend of mine who just recently got married here in the winter. Childhood friends. He and his wife had me and my wife over for games night. And the first thing I think of is this going to end like the Jason Bateman movie. I'm going to be driving through neighborhoods with mafia people after me or something. But that was one of those weird things, because he was not an outgoing guy that I remember in high school, and now he's we're doing this charades game and everything, and it was fun. And you got a great point there. That connectivity to people rather than, okay, well, I'm just going to log on. But sometimes that's the only thing you can get.
But not to say that logging on isn't awesome either.
No.
Either however you do it, however you want to play with people or not, you're always going to find a connection somewhere, even if it is just through speaking through a mic, as we are, hoping to connect with you.
Hoping to. Unless we forgot to press record, in which case this has been a fun one-on-one discussion, Troy.
Yay!
I hope not.
No, it's recording.
Good. Glad to hear that. Again, the tail end here, ladies and gentlemen, and Mogs, is just, we're going to keep doing a few more of these, and if people like them and enjoy them, then great. We'll kind of keep doing them. Again, I'm not doing it to make money. I'm still paying for the booth and all this stuff out of my pocket, which is fine because I have the means right now, but my wife and I are looking at homes right now, so I don't know how much longer that will continue.
I got you back.
Thanks, appreciate it. But for certain, if this does seem like it's something up your alley, and you're like, hey, I don't mind listening to these two guys for a while once they get their act together and learn how to talk around microphones.
Or just talking in general.
Awkward. But I think our hope, rather, that maybe there'll be a little bit more discussions we can have on the various aspects and topics we can come back to. That's, you know.
Well, we do have a Facebook page, Cross Format Fandom. And if you do have any suggestions about topics you'd like to hear us talk about, pop them on there.
Fantastic. Thank you for tying that in. Troy is also going to handle most of the social media aspects of things, because that's not my forte.
Well, we'll see.
Although everyone's listening and they're like, I don't know, the guy can't seem to talk or has antiquated technology and doesn't seem to do anything else that's modern anymore. So maybe this is the wrong host to be talking about modern current pop culture fandom. Yeah, I don't even know what to say to that. That's a valid point. Shooting myself in the foot. What am I doing?
All good.
Here?
Don't worry about it.
But we're, going to have some guest hosts on, as I mentioned, people involved in the various fandoms that we're not. I don't do the Pokemon thing, but we have friends that do. We have people we know that are involved in the pinball community.
Comics,
wrestling.
I love comics, but you have better people to explain more of that
exactly
stuff.
And some of the questions that some of us just have about these, like as a guy who does costume or cosplay, if you want to refer to it as that, and that's another topic, costume versus cosplay. What are the differences? It's like toxic fandom versus passionate fandom. But when someone sees me in a full Ghostbuster rig or a full Jedi Knight outfit that's replicated to screen accurate stitching, and where'd you pick that up? Walmart? No. Where'd you pick your rims up? The junkyard? We'll get into that. Will be a fun topic too, I think, to think about. In the meantime, folks, stay tuned for our next episode, which, assuming our Fortress of Solitude engineers here don't bar us from returning, should hopefully be within a month, and we'll
sooner.
We'll give you some heads up on the pre-mentioned Facebook page.
Cross Format Fandom.
Cross Format Fandom. You can see what we look like. Actually, you know what? Maybe
don't look at the page. Don't look at the page.
Don't look at that. Voice for radio. Face for radio. That's what it was. Face for radio. The other aspects of our social media are going to come down later, like things like your Instagram and your Twitter. It's just we're a little slow getting at this because, frankly, we do work full-time jobs at night and we sort of sleep when everyone's up, and our time to sort of focus on these things is a little bit limited, which is why it's taken us so long to get this show up and going, myself included. I do mostly myself because I sort of had to find a studio and everything first that would humor us.
Yes.
But thanks again if you're tuning in. And if you look forward to hearing from us again, fantastic. If you do put comments on the page or on the show, we appreciate it, folks. We would ask you to keep them, kind of above the bar. Again, we just did a whole segment on toxic fandom, so let's
not yell at us.
Let's not yell at us, okay? We're not trying to talk anyone down or say anyone's opinion sucks, anything of that nature. But we look forward to hearing from you more and seeing more of you, perhaps in person sometime. Until then, this is JL and Team Morrow saying, be excellent to each other.
Be excellent, yeah.
And party on, dudes.